I apologize. Councilmember Boki,
Present.
Councilmember Brandstetter has been excused.
Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Councilmember Farmer, Councilmember Farmer.
She's on.
Here. Sorry, I had to
Moss?
log out and log back in. I'm here. Here.
Councilmember Simpson,
Here.
Deputy Mayor Whalen is not with us, and Mayor Anderson.
Here.
You have a quorum?
Thank you. So the items to discuss today are under new business. We're going to review the 2021-22 proposed budget department by department presentations. And the kickoff of this is Mr. Caulfield and the City Council section of the budget.
Actually, Mayor, I'm just going to turn it back over to you, and feel free to call upon the people there for each department. So for City Council, it'll be Ms. Kelly Fong. For the City Manager, Ms. Kelly Fong. For Community and Economic Development, Mr. Buer. For Parks and Recreation, it'll be Ms. Dodsworth. And then for Legal, it'll be Ms. Wagner.
All right. So Ms. Kelly Fong.
Good evening, Mayor and Council members. I'm here tonight to present the proposed 2021-2022 budget for the City Council and City Manager's Department. And I will start with the City Council's budget. As I'm sure you're all aware, the function of the City Council is to represent the citizens of Lakewood, specifically by enacting legislation and making general policy decisions that govern the city. They also appoint the full-time professional city manager, and also appoint members of the city's advisory boards and committees, which a full list is provided in the budget document, and also sponsor and support events around the community. While 2020 was a bit of an outlier due to COVID-19, looking back to 2018 and 2019, the City Council sponsored or supported over 30 events per year. And again, a full list is provided in the budget document. The proposed budget also provides a highlight of the City Council's 2019 and 2020 accomplishments, as well as a list of anticipated key accomplishments for the City Council looking forward into 2021 and 2022. The proposed budget for the City Council totals just over $148,000 for both 2021 and 2022, which most of the department's costs, almost 89% are associated with salaries and wages of the City Council members. In the budget, there is a decrease in travel and training. This is due to the elimination of a Washington to Washington, D.C. event. This travel reduction is in alignment with the City Manager's directive to reduce discretionary spending due to the financial impact of the COVID-19 pandemic. The budget keeps funding for several travel and training events, as well as for Youth Council, sister city functions, and the International Festival. I'll now transition to the City Manager's Department. The City Manager's Department includes the City Manager, the City Policy Analyst, and the currently vacant position of Communications Manager, as well as in this proposed budget, the addition of a half-time Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Manager. Executive services continue to be provided to this department by the City Clerk, a position that is housed within the Legal Department. In brief, the City Manager performs the following tasks: implement the policy and goals of the Lakewood City Council, manage the day-to-day operations of the city, make recommendations to the City Council, and protect and enhance the city's financial health and stability. Like the City Council's budget, the proposed budget for this department also provides a highlight of the City Manager's Department's key 2019 and 2020 accomplishments, as well as a list of anticipated accomplishments for 2021 and 2022. In 2021, the proposed budget for the City Manager Department totals just over $709,000 and $788,000 in 2022. Highlights of the City Manager's budget include, as I've previously mentioned, the addition of the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Manager. This would be a half-time position with a start date of July 1st, 2021. And as noted in the budget, this position would serve as the subject matter expert for the city's equity team and would help lead initiatives on workforce diversity and cultural awareness initiatives, diversity training, and also enhancing partnerships with external organizations and improving community engagement and collaboration. The budget also has the currently vacant communications manager position, and it is budgeted with a start date of March 1st, 2021. The budget includes reduced travel and training, again in alignment with the city manager's directive to reduce discretionary spending. The budget includes funds for a community satisfaction survey in 2021. This would be a survey that was similar to the National Citizen Survey that was previously performed by the city in 2015 and 2017. Funding is also included in the budget to continue printing 3 connection magazines per a year for each of the years. This concludes my budget presentation for the City Council and the City Manager's Department. Does the City Council have any questions?
Any questions for Ms. Kelly Fong? Let the record reflect Mr. Branster has joined us.
I have no questions, but I did want to comment that I'm super pleased to hear that the communications position will be filled, and I think the timing is perfect. So thanks for that. And also for the Connections magazine and for the community satisfaction survey. That's those connections with the community are incredibly helpful, as you know, in planning your work and moving forward, our work and moving forward. So great, thank you.
All right. Thank you very much, Ms. Kelly Fong. We'll now move to community and economic development with Mr. Beaver. And Mr. Simpson, if you have a mute button, could you utilize it, please?
All right. Just a minute, Mayor. Hayden? I'm gonna need the phone.
I don't know what happened. It's still going.
You told me to mute it.
But we're gonna have to do. Okay. I heard something.
Yeah, but no. We're muted. But I don't hear.
Dave, you're up.
Okay. Good morning or good morning. Good evening. I'd first like to begin with a quick overview of the department and what we do. The department is composed of 6 divisions. The first is the building division, which administers the international construction codes, performs plan review, inspection services, and actually has several CST-related assignments. Current planning performs shoreline management regulations, business licensing, environmental protection, subdivisions, land use, development regulations, and permit intake. Long-range planning does the comprehensive plan, the sub-area plan administration, covers the regional planning and coordination, and assists with economic development assignments through Becky Newton. Economic development is the 4th division. Assignments often vary. Performs ombudsman activities, business retention expansion surveys, tracks leads and inquiries. Also is the project lead for the Lakewood Landing project. And most recently performs the intake for the CARES Act grant requests. The 5th one is often very confusing because of all the different things that they do. but this is the Housing and Community Services Division. They perform the CDBG and Home program, which is a part of the Tacoma Lakewood Consortium, the NSP, the Rental Housing Safety Program, supports Pierce County on the 2060 and 2163 grant programs. New for this year is the administration of SHB 1406, which is the Affordable Housing Sales Tax Credit Program, in which case the city will be receiving about $100,000 a year for the next 20 years. Dangerous building abatements and public nuisances. The last, South Sound Military Communities Partnership, is basically all things military related, regional transportation, JBLM relationships, and joint land use planning under federal program guidelines. If you're looking for an org chart showing the layout of the department, you can find that on page 51 of your budget document. I'm going to highlight three basic budget highlights for the council. The first one is request for a third building inspector. The request is being sought because of a significant uptick in the amount of enforcement related activities identified by CSRT. And frankly, CSRT has gotten much better at finding stuff for Community and Economic Development Department to do. Examples of the work include abandoned, dilapidated commercial and residential structures, illegal conversions of single-family residences into illegal boarding houses and many apartment complexes, which we seem to have a significant issue with currently. And the overall ongoing rental housing inspection process has highlighted unsafe conditions related to unpermitted construction activity and longstanding deferred maintenance practices in some apartment properties. And as a side note, because of COVID-19 and a very tight rental housing market, it has significantly impacted relocation efforts in the event that relocation is required. The second request is to use some of our housing funds for Habitat for Humanity in LASA. Habitat for Humanity has a forthcoming project of $640,000 to build 9 units in Tillicum. The project site is quite unique. Not only does the project provide for new affordable housing, but also helps stabilize a neighborhood, in addition to resolving longstanding property maintenance and public nuisances in a specific part of Tillicum. This proposal is actually coming before the City Council later this month. The second project is really Living Access Support Alliance, or LASA, and that's basically to expand human services. However, what this is going to look like remains a work in progress. There's been some discussion that Lakewood assisting LASA to develop a long-range social services plan to help meet community needs. The last topic, again, is property abatement and public nuisances. Some of our work was stalled in the first half of 2020 because of the work on the Tacoma Lakewood Consolidated Plan and the impacts of COVID-19. However, in the second half of 2020, we've tried to pick up the pace. Program continues through 2021 and 2022. Objective is to perform between 25 and 30 abatements, plus about 4 public nuisances per year. Public nuisances are generally situations where you have large numbers of junk vehicles in residential areas. 2 significant abatements will carry forward in 2021, that being the QFC property and the mobile home park, Carwan Village at 2621 84th Street South. Overall, I would describe the rest of our functions for the upcoming budget year as staying the course and in compliance or alignment with City Council goals and policies. Basically, continuing economic development efforts, performing continuous process improvement on permitting and agency coordination, and I would note that Lakewood PALS becomes operable in January 2021. Performing annual comprehensive plan updates, keeping the land use and development regulations current, keeping abreast of regional planning efforts which impact Lakewood, internal staff training, maintaining cost recovery rates, and in general, basically performing the bread and butter planning work that is necessary to continue to move forward. And Mr. Mayor and Council, that concludes my presentation.
Questions for Mr. Buer? Mr. Bulkey?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Dave, just a couple of questions. One is, from time to time when things get real busy in permitting, and we've been, pre-COVID, I think you guys were really busy, and we do have a lot of building activity in the city recently. How does this budget propose to handle those peak loads? Because as council members, then we'll get little bugs in our ears about length of permitting. And how do you propose in this budget to handle those peak loads?
Well, first of all, the city manager has indicated that we are bringing back the plans examiner position and a second building inspector position for 2021 and 2022, plus the third, which is going to have a bit of a direction to work on many of the code enforcement assignments. And that's where we get hung up on some of the other building code inspection processes. I also would suspect that if things get really busy, I know our current building official maintains contracts for services for additional plan review and inspection services. So I think with all those things taken into account, plus PALs coming forward, I suspect that we will have a better inspection program in 2021. Right now, we're a little bit behind the curve. We are having difficulty keeping up with the number of inspections, even using contract inspectors. I think everyone in this general region is having difficulty maintaining inspections given the workload.
So with the new inspector, besides doing abatements, the individual will also do new and remodels and that kind of stuff, new construction and remodels. They're not specifically for abatement.
The new inspector has a focus on abatement, but generally speaking, there's going to be crossover into other areas. I don't see that being an issue. Also, we have a continuing problem with illegal construction in the city of Lakewood. When we've had two inspectors in the past, one inspector often focused on illegal construction and was able to basically pay for the position based upon the payment of double permit fees. So I think in 1 year alone, he issued close to 300 stop work orders. Wow. So that gives you an idea of the level of activity in Lakewood that we're trying to keep track of. I do know that we speak regularly about permitting. We try very hard to keep up with it. I'm hoping that in 2021, with some of the programs that we've talked about, you'll see an improvement. Although I would also point out that I often receive unsolicited comments from individuals that we do a very good job. So I guess in some respects, it depends on who you talk to.
Right. So the PALS Plus, everyone, we've been waiting for that for a while. The industry is, I know, appreciative of the move towards PALS Plus because that's what they use when they go out into the unincorporated areas to do their business. So what efficiencies do you see in cost savings, if any, do you see from moving to PALS Plus?
The first part that I would tell you is that Eden is clunky, and we have to do a lot of emails back and forth to make sure that all other employees within community development and public works are informed of the status of permits. So that's going to be substantially improved, where you see a lot better note taking in each of the departments, and plus people can go online and actually track exactly where their project is and what the comments are from city officials. That to me is going to be a big improvement. You're going to see a change in the reporting documents. And most likely you're going to see the department revise its performance measures so that we can better track the status of permits as they come in and leave.
So And Dave, are there any, are you proposing any fee increases in your budget this year at all?
We're working on amendments to the master fee schedule right now, myself and the finance department or administrative services.
Okay.
There's some fees, there's one fee that we're getting rid of because we deleted it from the code, so that's no longer necessary. There's some language that clarifies the purpose of the fee. We are including a fee increase for multifamily tax exemption. And the fee is either $800 or $1,200. And that is to help us recoup some of our costs for the annual reporting that is required from the state.
I hope he froze up on me.
Okay?
Okay, I missed that last part. Everything froze up on me. You said
Okay.
800 or 1,200, so.
Yeah, $800 or $1,200 depending upon the tax exemption period. But that's to help us offset some of our costs for the annual reporting that is required to Department of Commerce. That seems to be forgotten. It's not a complete cost recovery, but it's an attempt to collect some of our fees and administration. I know the building official has gotten rid of the temporary conditional occupancy permit and instead has proposed some additional fees or restructuring of the department so that you're able to move forward with a foundation permit or a resubmittal permit or something of that nature and not have to wait fully upon the building permit to be issued. So it's giving a greater level of flexibility to the applicant contractor. I see that as a good thing. We're also trying to cut down on the number of resubmittals. So there's, if you submit a set of plans and they're not detailed or they're missing substantial information and you have to resubmit, we're gonna make you pay for that if that's what the city council directs. The whole purpose behind that is please submit to us a complete application. That's what we want. So that means we can move faster on the permit review. But it's a series of administrative things of that nature. That's coming before you in November. We're considering maybe making an adjustment to the shoreline management fee because it might be too low. But other than that, I'm not making any other changes to our cost recovery system or fees because we're at 85% or above. So I just don't see a need to make any adjustments.
Okay, thank you. That's all, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Any other questions for Mr. Buer? Thank you very much, Mr. Buer. We will move on to Parks, Recreation, and Community Services with Ms. Dodsworth.
Hello, Mayor and City Council members. Thanks for letting me share information tonight regarding our budget and our work program for the Parks, Recreation, and Community Services Department. Our mission is to create a vibrant and healthy community, and we strive to do that every day in the services that we provide to the citizens of Lakewood. We utilize a variety of resources to accomplish this work, and that includes full-time, part-time, and seasonal employees, as well as we work with contractors and lots of community volunteers. Our department is broken down into 5 main divisions: administration, recreation, services, senior services, human services, and then operations and maintenance. We have a very lean organization, but we believe we do an excellent job implementing the City Council goals and strategies, especially in the areas of regional partnerships, efficient services, and accountability. Our primary purpose is to maintain and improve city infrastructure, to enhance the beauty of Lakewood, to create safe places to visit, and to extend the life of our city resources and our investments. This is an essential service, and we do this by maximizing use of all city resources. Our motto in the city, is to look at city work with city resources. So our work program is ever increasing and changing, and we do the best we can with the resources that we're provided, and we're thankful for that. We're also implementing the goals and strategies of the City Council and those recently updated in our legacy plan to ensure that we're supporting youth, seniors, and families supporting our most vulnerable citizens, and expanding opportunities for the community to gather together. We're also looking at our work through an equity lens to be sure that we're looking at our entire community needs and working hard to meet those. We do this by leveraging community resources to enable us to accomplish so much. We're fortunate that Lakewood is such a generous and collaborative community. That is how we plan to meet our 45% cost recovery goal for the parks and recreation elements that we provide. Hopefully you've had a chance to review our 2019-2020 accomplishments. And when we're looking at our overall budget, we're striving to maintain this type of performance and level of service. We've been going strong and thriving, and we hope we don't have to relive 2020 as it was really a challenging year for our community. As you enter into 2021, we promise to be nimble and bold and innovative. We will continue to find new partners and use preventive maintenance and best practices to get our job done. So a quick highlight of each division and some of our anticipated key projects. So starting with administrative service, this division oversees 5 city advisory boards. We supervise all the personnel in our department. We update policies and planning documents, and we proactively seek partnerships, grants, and a variety of resources to support our city operations. Past accomplishments included the transfer of Fort Steilacoom Park from the state to the city, surviving the day-to-day, often hour-to-hour changes and craziness associated with COVID, as well as updating the Lakewood Legacy Plan. That was a big accomplishment. The extensive work that we did on the Legacy Plan really helped us be prepared and score well during the most recent grant cycles. During the past few years, we've also been very successful in receiving other capital project grants and community donations to enhance our parks. We've managed many capital projects, and we're going to continue to do that, and I'll share a little bit about that at the end. The next section we have featured is Human Services, which manages the city's grant program. It supports Lakewood Promise and our community collaboration. Some of the accomplishments in that division this past 2 years included our 12-year allocations report, a community needs assessment, as well as being more strategic in the use of our various boards, our advisory boards, and our funding programs to show the community-wide collective impact, especially related this year for housing and homelessness. Also this year, in the past year, we've offset the administrative costs of this division, which is really just a half-time employee, by supporting the Choice program. We received a census grant and, of course, all of the CARES allocations. While facilitating, we just are in the process of finishing up the allocation process, which will be coming to council in November with our recommendations for 2021 funding for the human services area. Key projects that we're going to be working on next year is, of course, developing and managing the contracts that council approved, managing the various special programs and grants, and gathering data to show the effectiveness of our human services investments in Lakewood. Regarding recreation services, this division works with a variety of partners to implement our out-of-school programs for youth, arts and specialty programs, as well as our year-round special events, which can bring our community together. Accomplishments included summer camps and after-school programs, our farmers market, and then previous to COVID, seasonal events, a summer concert series, and a wildly successful Summerfest. This year, we've had to be quite creative and look at new ways to do things. Examples have included drive-ins, drive-throughs, and pre-registering and staggering events to be sure that we're meeting all of our health and safety guidelines. That innovation is going to continue in 2021 and beyond. Some key projects that we're going to be working on is we're going to be working on a brand new outdoor adventure program. This will be for all ages. We've seen that our citizens really rely on our parks and they want to get outside. And so we're going to be working on with lots of different partners to create some new opportunities so that you can use Lakewood parks for a variety of purposes. We are going to do a redo on the Youth Summit, reboot that, start coordinating events at the Colonial Plaza, and reimagining how we can safely implement our successful special events in our farmers market. We'll also start implementing a public art program and, of course, celebrating our city's 25th birthday. In our senior services area, this vulnerable population was probably the most heavily impacted by COVID this year due to the nature of the pandemic. We worked really hard to stay connected with our current members and are implementing virtual programs and creative ways to get them back outside and to get them engaged. Who would ever say thank goodness for Zoom? We're all zoomed out, but it's been a real lifesaver for our older adults to connect them to the community. They would and are looking forward to, we're looking forward to maintaining our current operations in this area, and we're going to continue to promote good health, build strong minds, create social connections, which help our older adults maintain independence and avoid loneliness and the negative impacts of isolation. The next and final division is our Operations and Maintenance Division. This division is broken down into various work groups, which include parks, facilities, and street operations. Over the years, we've cross-trained all of our staff as much as possible so that we can be as flexible with our resources. This work group continues to maintain city infrastructure so that we can maximize its use and extend the life of city investments. We also use our staff, equipment, and expertise to support citywide projects, programs, and special events. They really get around. During the early days of COVID, the crews from this team were out in the field addressing issues every single day. And they were working in the parks, they were working on the streets, and then working in our facilities. Our motto is safe, clean, and green, and our priority is to make sure that everyone visiting our city, whether they're driving on the streets, entering our buildings, or using our parks, have a good first impression of our community. This team manages all the city buildings and work sites. They keep them clean and operating efficiently. And in 2020, we made many changes to meet the COVID safety protocols. We also provided a lot of support to our information technology department for various building upgrades and surveillance projects. Our streets O&M team focuses on right-of-way issues to include pavement, shoulders, vegetation management, stormwater operations, and maintenance of over 8,000 city street signs. Our work never stops for these folks. In 2020, well, actually over the last 2 years, they inventoried and cleaned every city sign and entered 5,100 of them into our GPS system. They also converted 2,300 wooden sign poles to metal telspar poles, which actually makes them safer and easier to fix and replace when they're hit or damaged. They ensure that a safe flow of traffic happens throughout the city, whether it's dry and sunny, gray and wet, or covered with snow. This year, we've answered over 1,700 311 reports in a record period of time. We've picked up tons and tons of garbage. We're really responsive. In 2021, we are going to start contracting with Pierce County to maintain our 69 traffic signals. We've been contracting with them for about a year due to some changes in employees, and it's been working out really well. We're very happy with the success of that program, and we plan to continue that. That does reduce 2 FTEs from our program, but we are contracting with them, and I think we'll be able to add some additional preventive maintenance to our traffic signal program and keep them running efficiently. This year, we saw how important the parks were to our community. Businesses and portions of the city may have been closed, but the parks were open for business, and people flocked there to escape the fear and isolation of this disease, to boost their mental health, to maybe add a recess period to their virtual school day, or just for a variety of reasons to stay close to home and play. Park use citywide continues to substantially grow each year, and we work hard to support the thousands and thousands of people who visit our park sites every week. We manage very large local, national, and sometimes international special event programs that occur in our open spaces. There is 1 FTE that won't be funded in 2021 in our maintenance division, and that is due to our protocols of managing our bottom line until we can get the economy boosted back up. But we were fortunate that this year we were able to take our part-time seasonal resources and add a 0.75 FTE to our street landscaping. As you know, our gateways, our new and updated streets, on our planting areas, there's been a lot of new investment in the city, and so we're able to better take care of those resources. In our spare time, we also manage a robust property management and parks capital program. And I'll share with you a little bit about our 6-year capital improvement programs. City manager covered that a bit, but we show almost $4 million in park investment for 21 and 22. 2 of our major programs are going to be the update of American Lake Park to make the waterfront area more accessible and to continue the implementation of our Wards Lake Master Plan, which can include a pump track, a loop trail, and our off-leash dog park. As city manager noted, we seem to be quite successful in this last grant round. We applied for 6 different grants, and we were highly rated on every one. And based on the history of legislative support for those various programs, it's pretty we're pretty sure we're going to get funding for all of the grants we applied for. So we're pretty proud of ourselves for that. Let's see. The other thing that'll be happening with our park improvements, as I said earlier, that we've really worked on the legacy plan, and we looked at everything with an equity lens. And so we're really taking a look at where our parks are in the community and who we're serving, and we're making sure that we are providing resources throughout our community for all of our residents to meet their special needs, or just to make sure they have a place, again, close to home that they can visit and get there safely. Let's see. Also, we have our 6-year property management CIP, and 2 major projects that we'll be working on there is one, moving the aging fuel tanks from Fort Steilacoom Park. We're going to be taking those from Fort Steilacoom and moving them out to Front Street, and having a new system that'll be more efficient, will meet our reporting requirements for finance and the auditors, and it's going to allow us then to complete the yard at Fort Steilacoom Park, which needs to be paved. But we need to move that infrastructure out of the middle before we do that. So we're excited about the opportunities that you've provided us, or that you will provide to us through this budget. And we're happy to continue to create a vibrant and healthy community that's safe, clean, green, and equitable. That's what we do. And I'm happy to answer any of your questions that you might have regarding our work program or capital programs.
Questions for Ms. Dodsworth? Mr. Bulkey.
Hey, Mary, thank you very much for the presentation. A couple items, or several items. You're adding a 3/4 time maintenance assistant, and we're not filling, it's in the budget, I see, but we're not filling that maintenance worker position. So could you give us an idea of what the difference, is there a different job description for those 2 people? And what is the impact of not filling that maintenance worker position?
They do have different job descriptions. The maintenance, all of our facilities, streets, parks are all considered maintenance workers. And so we have a lot of flexibility with those individuals. So they do a lot of different tasks. A maintenance assistant is more of an entry-level type position, and that particular work is specifically in our street landscaping area. So they do a lot of mow, blow, and go, so to speak. You know, they do a lot of work with turf management, plantings, weeds, vegetation management, things like that. The maintenance worker that left the city, he had another job, and so we haven't filled that position. We received another job. He was really our special projects person and our irrigation specialist, and so we'll miss those skills. However, what we're working on now is to cross-train everybody so that we can be more efficient with irrigation, and you know, that we didn't really have to have one person that was our main person, but give everybody those skills. So anytime you lose, you know, 2,080 hours of an employee time, it could reduce our ability to respond and, you know, to 311. You know, park use is growing, so we'll just have to be more efficient with our resources. You know, we hope that when the economy picks back up, that would be one of the priority areas that gets refilled. But we understand where we're at right now, and we're going to do our best with the resources that we have. And again, utilizing all of the city resources that we have, we'll get the job done.
So I guess I'm looking at the city manager, and John, I'm assuming that when you left the position in, by not just eliminating it, taking out one position, but leaving it in and not funding it, you have some idea that if revenues come back in a consistent way and in a high enough way, that is a position that you would consider filling on the advice of the council.
That's correct, Councilmember Boki. That would probably be in the top 3 after reinstating replacement reserves, as well as finding the money necessary to do chip seal and pavement management in 2022. Which is actually more of one-time monies. That's a plug because it's a cash flow issue, because as we look out into the future, we're fine. And so then this maintenance worker position would be one that I would want to come back and talk with the council about, once our operating revenues get back to a point. At the end of the day, the recommendation to fill this position is really not fill this position is twofold. One is it's currently vacant, and I do not want to propose laying anybody off. And then secondly, it's a math exercise. It's just, we just don't have the money as we look out in the current biennium. So that's really the primary reasons.
So back of the envelope, we're really talking, because of the chip seal program, the street maintenance is important to me. I think it's important to the rest of the council also. It's really a delta of about $1 million a year, really, between the chip sealing, this other position you're talking about, and this maintenance worker position.
If you add it all up, yes, that's
Okay.
correct. But really, but the chip seal and the pavement management in 2022 is one time. It's a one-time plug that we need, and then the maintenance worker would be funded with ongoing monies. Yep.
Okay, thanks. And then Mary, I want you to know, after the city manager gave us the good report about your presentations, I actually went to the state site looking for the score sheets. I didn't find the score sheets, but it did lead me to YouTube, where they actually have the presentations in their entirety. Of course, they run all day long, so I had to go searching for you. I found one of them and I started watching, but I ran out of time. So I'm gonna try to catch up with those. But I don't know how many presentations you had to make over. Well, clearly you had to make 6 presentations. I found one, and it was one of the it was American Lake Park.
Oh, good. That was one of my best ones.
Yeah, nicely done. And I think we're all looking forward to the legislative session so that we can get those funded. Are those additions, or are those going to replace funds that you were already planning to use in the CIP? Is it going to replace funds, or we'll just use less REIT, or were you plugging these grants in already?
We had crossed our fingers and anticipated receiving these different revenue sources. So when we put the budget together, for instance, American Lake at, say it's 1.2 million, we anticipated 500,000 here and 500,000 there, with the city having a bit of a match. The great thing is that we structured the grant so that this 500,000 grant can match this 500,000 grant, so that we can really, my job is to try and protect the general fund's bottom line. So if I can get other people or other organizations to help us offset our capital expenses, that's great. And so we were really careful with which grants we applied for and where we were putting them. A, so that they were competitive, because it's a very competitive process, and B, that we could make maximum use of those resources. So yes, we did anticipate these grants in our budget. And again, to help reduce the amount of general fund or REIT or SWIM or whatever the funding source was that was coming from the city, we were hoping to reduce that as much as possible.
Good, that's outstanding. I mean, it's just really nice to get that kind of funding. I guess I'm really looking forward, and this is post-COVID, we hope, really looking forward to getting those community celebrations back in the queue. We had so much momentum coming with the gathering spot in Fort Silicon Park, and the music, which I love, the outdoor music. Summerfest has just been wonderful the last few years, and really I was really looking forward to really seeing Motor Avenue kind of meeting it, coming in Colonial Plaza, really coming to fruition for us as a community. So I'm really looking forward to those things. Hopefully it'll happen next year, but if not, I guess we'll wait till 22, but we'll play it by ear. But I'm hoping that in these plans, some great things will happen. But thank you.
Just to know, we are being super creative. We're researching, we're talking with people throughout the country to really figure out how we can bring those things back safely. Of course, managing them and dealing with whatever the phases that we're in or any of the protocols that are required. But we're looking at how we can do that, and there's ways that we can bring some of those things back a different way. And people might have to get used to coming and going a little differently, but we want to do that too. They, really made our community special and made people come together. It was great for inclusion and diversity and everybody feeling like they were part of our community. We're going to continue that.
Ms. Moss.
You're muted.
You're muted.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mayor, I didn't have a question for you, but I did want to pass on compliments that I have received through the community of the efforts that was put forward for the families to continue to have some type of entertainment at the park. So thank you for that. And so, Mr. Caulfield, I do have a question for you, if I might. Last year, LMCC was funded through the Carry Forward funds. And so this year we were requesting $3,000 as we were continuing with our communications program. And I didn't see it listed in a place. So I'm just curious to see if there would be some funds that you could help me out with.
Thank you, Councilmember Moss. So the way so first of all, it would be my recommendation to this body to include a $3,000 appropriation as part of the 21-22 proposed budget. And that was an oversight on my part, Councilmember Moss, and because typically the way we had been handling it was part of the carry forward.
Right.
And if this body does not include it in the proposed 21 and 22 budget, then what this body can expect is that part of the carry forward adjustment in early next year, then I will be making a recommendation of a budget amendment accordingly. But given where we are in the process, my recommendation would be to include a $3,000 appropriation in each year in support of LMCC, and that be included as part of Ms. Dodsworth's department budget.
Great, thank you.
I have a question that might be a little bit down in the weeds, but I'm a fan of the integrated maintenance groundskeeping parks, streets program. Percentage wise, how does that break down as to work on the parks versus work on the streets for that team? And do they get their own budget silos?
Mm-hmm. Yes, there are, they each have their own division budgets and there are specific staff assigned to each area. So we do have people with specialty skills in the particular areas working there. I'd have to do math here, but we have 16, I believe, FTEs. And one of them is a superintendent, and so he gets spread out amongst everybody. I would say it's about 50-50, maybe 55-45 have parks and street landscaping and property management and streets. I can divide that out in a better way, but if you look at our org chart, which is on page 87 of the packet, it lays out specifically the number of FTEs for each area. So although we do have specific budgets for each area, we do have specialty staff that are assigned to them based on their skills and ability. But what it gives us the flexibility, especially throughout, is that we can bring park maintenance people in to help with facilities. We can put facilities people out if we need them for flagging or something in streets, putting up banners. And then of course, street landscaping can help out in different areas based on where we need them. So, so it gives us the ability to be flexible and nimble with our staff, although they are assigned to specific areas based on task and needs. But I can get you those percentages if that's important to break those out for you.
That's fine. That gives me a general idea.
Yeah.
You have enough work to do.
Yeah.
Any other questions for Ms. Dodsworth? Well, thank you very much. With that, we'll move on to the legal department and Ms. Wachter.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and members of the council. I'm Heidi Wachter. I'm the city attorney for the city of Lakewood, and I'm going to go over the legal department budget. I'm going to open with, and I'll mention a couple different philosophies as we go through. The first one, our key philosophy is that this department is really about mandated functions and supporting the other departments. And so the question typically isn't whether we should be doing the function, it's the way that we deliver the service. And we're always striving to figure out the most efficient and effective ways to deliver services that support the programs that the citizens care about. Our first division I'm going to talk about is the civil division, and our civil division is a mix of in-house insurance and retained counsel, and we are always looking at the best mix for any particular case that comes to the city. We've had some recent success with in-house litigation. We also do a lot of our administrative hearings in-house, and sometimes when there's an expertise needed, for example, with some specific employment law or labor arbitrations, we'll bring in outside counsel for something like that. What we're working on next, and we seem to be making some inroads in this, is avoiding litigation. You may have noticed that even though our litigation list looks as long as it used to, it now includes all the administrative hearings. We really aren't experiencing the number of litigation cases that we once did. So we've been successful with that. In the past biennium, where our focus was in creating some efficiencies was a shift in our prosecution services. We previously had a line item that provided for contract hiring of prosecutors, which compromised the quality a little bit, not beyond tolerance levels, but it was an efficient and effective way to deliver the service. As the market for getting attorneys started to dry up, we looked at other ways to bring that service in. And we now have prosecution being performed by one of our assistant city attorneys and an associate city attorney. When we made that shift, we did it without exceeding the financial footprint of the department. We were able to just kind of keep it within those bounds. So far, it's working very well. We have some in-house expertise complemented by an entry-level employee, and it's working. You may find right now one of our prosecutors is on leave, and as a result, Ms. McCain and I have had to dust off our court presence, and we are having to go in and do some filling in municipal court, and I think it's good for us. Some people have to remind me of that on certain days, but we seem to be getting through it, and it's to the benefit of the city's bottom line. The area to watch next biennium is the clerk's division. And I say that because we've been talking about it for a long time, but we are actually going to move into document management. This is a benefit to all of the departments in the city. It's a benefit to the city overall. And our city clerk, along with our assistant city manager for administrative services and our IT department, are coming together to try and get us the best document management possible. It fills one of our other departmental philosophies, which is that smooth running systems save resources. If we have systems that are smooth and reliable and work, we can avoid some of these little emergencies that crop up from time to time. And I'm going to tell you about a recent case that highlights this. We don't have document management right now. We have everybody doing the very best job they can with a hybrid of some stuff on a computer and some stuff in the desk drawers. And each department is doing it to the best of their ability. The result of this is that we sometimes have duplication and we sometimes have gaps. And we got a public disclosure request a while ago. We thought we had found everything. We weren't really sure. And it took several months of a couple of departments really working on it and drilling down. And now we've recently gotten a voluntary dismissal from the people who were coming after us on those documents. But we sweat a lot in that process, both in terms of trying to make sure we've done everything we can and in terms of just being nervous about what the outcome might be. A document management system that involves all the departments and creates consistency will avoid those kinds of scramblings. I love telling you when we win those cases, but it would be nicer if they didn't get to the level that they get to without that kind of management. So we're looking forward to telling you that we've succeeded with document management next year. The cost we can't avoid, and that's noted in your budget, is election costs. It's a line item, we get charged for it. It's, if there's an election in the city, it's part of the cost of doing business. So that's noted in your budget. What's different from previous years is that we had an FTE that was half grant funded, half general fund funded. We had an employee move on because her husband's in the military, and we gave up that half FTE that was general fund funded. So that puts the city ahead a little bit. And as I noted, we no longer have a straight line item that's for contract prosecution. We feel that we are very well positioned to go into the next biennium, and we feel that by getting the right people and not worrying about the number of people, that we have a high-performing legal department right now. I think it's probably as strong as it's ever been, and we're very comfortable with this budget, and we think that we're good to go. I'd be happy to try and answer any questions.
Questions for Ms. Wachter?
If there are specific questions about document management, the clerk is here as well.
I guess I have a related question, just looking in your crystal ball. And this really is a budgeting crystal ball question. We have seen a substantial decline in revenue from fees, fines.
Right.
And that seems to be a trend both from judicial edict and potential legislation. How close to zero do you think we'll get? How soon?
I don't know about zero, but I think you're very perceptive to note the direction that things seem to be going in, particularly for crimes at the misdemeanor level. There is the perception of a strong correlation between lot in life and these kinds of crimes. And in an effort to try and improve people's circumstances, and I'm not editorializing on whether this is a good approach or not, but the perception seems to be that when we add fines at that level of crime, we're just adding to the burden of people who weren't able to get out of that circumstance to begin with. And the more that philosophy prevails with legislation and with the court system, the less you're going to see us able to be assessing those fines. We had not a great collection rate to begin with, but now they're going that one step further and having these inquiries with defendants in court and the like. And I think that trend's going to continue for a while.
Mr. Brandstetter.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Ms. Wachter, in the biennial budget detail, it does seem that the whole of the professional development, which has historically been primarily through conference attendance by the key staff in the department for either legal or public records, is being eliminated in 2021. But for instance, we have a new associate city attorney and some other folks. Is the balance of eliminating everything in 2021 and then sort of having a full agenda of professional development in 2022 going to adequately onboard anybody that we've added or will be adding?
The answer to your question is yes. I'd be happy to illuminate if you wish to hear detail on that.
Well, I just want to be sure that we're comfortable not having some professional development available funding for anyone that is going to be recently joined us or new, and anticipating that, particularly on public records of where we're really expecting that perhaps the legislature in this coming 2021 term will do some things around that, that we have the resources to send someone to whatever training is requisite to keep ourselves current.
Councilmember Brandstetter, members of the council, we are required to report to the State Bar Association a set number of credits. We report every 3 years, and we do track that with some regularity. I will tell you that we've been creative in terms of the training that people need. Your WCIA money that you pay for membership in WCIA provides some of the best training available. And in fact, in recent years, they started working with WSAMA, the Municipal Attorneys Association, to present combined trainings. We are still receiving those trainings with great regularity electronically. And I do make sure that the attorneys are aware of those. And we do, through our city clerk, we report all those to the State Bar Association. So we're getting credit for those. I would also call your attention to a membership that we got when they were just starting out. The Summit Law Group put together a collective for training for HR professionals and attorneys, and we can get continuing legal education credit for those. They are putting on programs. It's about once a month or so, and they are on very pertinent issues of our time right now. So those are good trainings that we can go to. As far as getting people onboarded, I've been practicing for 30 years now, as has Ms. McCain, and we're pretty well networked. And when we feel like there's a need to get somebody dialed in to somebody, we reach out to our network for that. And our city prosecutor, Samantha Johnson, is also pretty well networked in the prosecution community. She was first a prosecutor for Kent and then later for Seattle. And she has turned out to be quite a mentor to our newest prosecutor. And I would expect nothing less of her if we have other new prosecutors in the future. Ideally, we like to go to the WSAMA conferences because that's the best way to network and figure out what's going on. And you hear about what's going on with other cities and so forth. We're pretty active online with that group. Conference is always better, but not when there's a need to reach a balanced budget for the entire city. We can meet the goal the way that it's laid out in your budget. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions for Ms. Wachter? Well, thank you very much. I appreciate your efforts. Mr. City Manager, do you have anything further?
I do not, Mayor. Thank you for asking.
All right, then we will recess into executive session for approximately 60 minutes pursuant to RCW 4230-110-1G to review the performance of a public employee. The council is not expected to take any action following the executive session except to come back to this forum and adjourn and announce adjournment. Okay, we'll take a 5-minute comfort break and be back on the executive session then. We're in recess. Good evening. And had trouble signing back in. We are adjourned.
Thank you.
And put executive sessions on for both